enemy for the day, Fort Grange, an American ship with nuclear warhead capabilities.
But these warships are all guests of the Australian Navy.
But the protest is against the nuclear-armed warships.
You don't know which naval vessels the nuclear warships are on, the nuclear explosives are on?
Well, yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
They neither confirm nor deny, but they're not going to sail halfway around the world without their nuclear weapons, have a crisis and have to go home and get them.
Besides Paddlers for Peace, the Sydney Peace Squadron. And aboard this catamaran, a determined Peter Hale.
Are you going to try and grab onto the bow?
You should be filming this. We'll see what happens.
But hard as he tries, the armada of naval small craft, police, and even the army see to it that Peter Hale is simply not in the race. Peter Hale's big moment is not going to be today, but he has distracted the authorities for long enough to allow this protester, Ian Cohen, to clamp himself firmly to the bow of USS Oldendorf.
When you actually see the nuclear ships coming into the harbour, you feel a lot different than when you're sitting around talking about it in your lounge room. And then some people are moved to take protest action that sort of tells you what their feelings are. The risk in hanging off the bow is minimal. Compared to the risk of a nuclear accident while those ships are in harbour, there's minimal risk of anything happening while hanging off the bow.
I don't think anybody believes that statement. There is much.
Well, the people who do it are all experienced surfers, right? You get out there in a 6-foot wave down at Maroubra or something like that, mate, on a reef, then you're really taking your life in your hands. But you go out there off the bow with a ship that's not moving too fast, and there's not really a problem. It's a way to make a protest. And if we just sat up on Mr. Macquarie's chair and went rah-rah, then we'd just be accepting the fact that they can come and dock in here, but we don't accept that. So we're prepared to get out on the harbour and stop them coming in. One day, when we've got bigger boats, we'll get out at sea and we'll stop them entering the heads.
The Navy wanted to celebrate a birthday, but further up the harbour, dozens of anti-nuclear protesters saw the occasion differently.
When I came into Australia, they sprayed me for bugs. And here they allow nuclear weapons into Sydney Harbour. Nobody sprays them. Nobody does damn all about them. Why can't they put up with handles like the rest of us? Or do they want the big cracker?
People protesting against nuclear. If I was out there, I'd probably do the same thing, if I was a civilian.
In testimony presented before the American Congress, retired US Navy Rear Admiral Jean LaRocque stated,
"Any ship capable of carrying nuclear weapons carries nuclear weapons. They do not offload them when they go into foreign ports. If they are capable of carrying them, they normally keep them aboard ship at all times."
You've had ships coming into Sydney Harbour now, what, for 15 years? Have you noticed them explode?
But accidents do happen.
No, they don't. Accidents do not happen on board these ships that come into Australian harbours.
but evidence from America is not quite so convincing.
NUWAX 79 was designed to simulate a peacetime nuclear weapons accident.
The US Navy has reported 233 incidents involving nuclear weapons from 1965 to 1983. 62 incidents involved nuclear weapons aboard surface ships in port. The United States takes the risk of an accident seriously enough to hold regular emergency rescue exercises called NUWAX.
They reduce the immediate explosive hazard
They involve up to 1,000 personnel working to recover mock nuclear weapons damaged by fire.
When the DOE's accident response group arrived, the Navy informed them the high explosive in one B-57 weapon had detonated, causing extensive damage to another B-57 weapon and scattering radioactive and classified debris. Marines quickly moved into position to guard the weapons and classified components.
These people say that these accidents won't occur, that all sorts of precautions are taken. I'm a chemist, and I know that when you've got explosives stored in close proximity to one another, you have the potentiality for accident. You always do, and accidents do happen. Accidents occur with nuclear weapons. We have a catalogue of them.
The possibility of an accidental detonation of a nuclear warhead is considered extremely unlikely. A more credible accident scenario is a collision on the harbour resulting in a fire. A subsequent explosion would blast plutonium contained in the weapons into a vapour and send it drifting over Sydney with the smoke from the fire. All land within a 1.5 kilometre radius would immediately be affected. Within a few hours, winds could disperse the cloud across Sydney's western suburbs, causing thousands of latent cancers. The reluctance to plan seriously for a nuclear weapons accident has resulted in confusion between medication designed for nuclear reactors and nuclear weapons.
Arrangements have been made through the Department of Health for the supply of higher stabilised iodine tablets to be provided to people who are within the area of contamination.
Well, how useful would iodine tablets be in a situation like this?
No use whatsoever. Iodine tablets are there to block off the thyroid gland, which would be affected if radioactive iodine were taken up. Now, that will only happen when an atomic reactor blows up or suffers some sort of accident, and that is just not in question here.
The core of the protest is this. Australia cannot be defended by nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons pose the greatest threat to all of us that we actually face with at the moment. And further than that, there's no specific safety requirements, safety plan or strategy that the State Emergency Services has, the government has, or the Navy has for dealing with an accident that might happen to these nuclear weapons. Now, we reckon that the Australian Navy is fantastic. 75 years nuclear free. They deserve to be congratulated. But as far as having weapons in the harbour, which in the event of anything going wrong, there's no procedure at all to deal with the potential consequences, which of course in a city of 3.5 million people could be disastrous.
How serious then do you think a nuclear accident could be? If there was an accident with one of the nuclear weapons on board, what sort of leakage could we expect?
Well, I do know that the Americans have released Freedom of Information material which indicates that they're concerned about radioactive leakage to 3,500, 4,000 metres of either side within 10 minutes of an accident taking place. I also know that the Americans have got a policy whereby they close off an area and declare it sovereign American territory, and they don't even allow Australians, Australian doctors or Australian Navy people to come in. These weapons are extremely powerful. The radioactive potential, if a weapon, for example, accidentally caught fire, would be of a consequence possibly even greater than, say, a small nuclear reactor accident on land. So, I mean, I don't want to alarm people because I think that that's unnecessary, but the truth of the matter is that it's a traffic jam out there. You've got more nuclear weapons sitting in our own harbour, in our own ports, with the various ships of the various harbours, than you've got sitting in most other places in the world at this point in time, except for the two navies of the Soviets and the Americans. And it's incredible to think that if an accident should happen here, that they've got no way of dealing with it. In fact, they don't know what to do. Are they going to evacuate people? They'd have to. How are they going to evacuate half of the population of Sydney?
Some of these ships will be carrying nuclear weapons, but anyone who says that these weapons are dangerous have either been misled or they're misleading.
Now when you join the army, it's really lots of fun. Oh, we'll teach you how to play with toys and others might call guns. Forget about your bombing, there's better things to do. Just turn your plowshares into swords and guns.
13 British, American and Australian warships slipped from Woolloomooloo dock just after 8 this morning. Included in the convoy, the British carrier Illustrious. At the same time, further down the harbour at Dobroyd Head, 28-year-old Dean Jeffries was preparing his homemade motorised hang glider for a protest flight over the Illustrious. His aim? To drop a wreath of daisies on the deck of the carrier.
I hope to signify all the thousands of people that died at Hiroshima through bombs like the ones that are on our ships at the moment.
His takeoff time was swiftly brought forward when he spotted an approaching police car. Before the long arm of the law permanently stalled his protest stunt, Jeffries powered his rickety craft into the sky in classic barnstorming fashion. But the police were also waiting in the air. Before Jeffries caught sight of his target, he buzzed the American destroyer Towers and for a while was engaged in a dogfight with police. When the Illustrious finally turned towards the heads, the glider showed almost cheeky contempt for the big ship as it dived low, making several passes along the deck. The final hazardous fly past saw the glider thread its way through 2 police helicopters and into position to drop the reef. The crew would have been impressed with the accuracy, if not the sentiment. The reef landed on top of the missile bay. And then during the getaway, one last victory gesture. Any plans to escape, however, were thwarted with police ready for the landing back at Dobroyd Head. Jeffries was taken into custody immediately. He went along peacefully, but not quietly.
Those death machines come in here, that's all they are, they're just a fishing killing machine.
We are